Hello, welcome to my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. My name is Stephanie, and this channel is where I share with you my works in progress, finished projects, things I'm cooking up, books I'm reading, funny things my kids may say. My hope is that as you watch this episode and the previous episodes that you find some inspiration along the way. This is episode 126. We are at the end of May year 2024. It has been about 3 weeks, I think, since we last sat down and chatted about all the things, all the projects, all the garden things, although I don't think there was anything to update you in the garden last time maybe, but that things were starting to wake up again, I think, because that would have been the first week of May. And since then, we have planted stuff in the garden. All of our perennials are coming up, and some of them are blooming already, and it is so exciting. If you have been here for a while, you may know that throughout the summer season, I often share blooms from our garden in each episode. So there are different bouquets showcased in each one based on the flowers that we grow in our garden. We have a lot of perennials, and I just love them because they are low maintenance and they come back every year, and it's so lovely. So I will definitely be sharing with you some of those today. You may see them here next to me. And so so that's really exciting. And just to give you a rundown, if you are new to this channel, how I organize things is there's usually an intro welcome section with sometimes vlog footage. I change that up here and there just depending on what I have to share or what I want to share. And then we go into finished projects, works in progress, and eats and read section where I maybe share some things that I've been baking or cooking, maybe new recipes I've tried, and then what books I've been reading. And then sometimes there is a food for thought section at the end based on something that has been on my mind, in my heart, something I want to share with you. It is usually making related in some way, but it's more general life type of things, but it's all making related in some way because making is just a part of life for me. It is an absolutely gorgeous day. It is the end of May, year 2024. I can't remember if I said that already, but it is just absolutely beautiful. There is a breeze. It's in the high 60s, I believe. It's sunny. Everything is green. Everything is blooming, and it is just beautiful. We have had such a great spring this year. I feel like sometimes winter runs pretty long, sometimes even into early May. We'll get snow at the end of April, and then you don't really start thawing out until middle of May, and so the spring ends up being like 2 weeks. But I feel like this year, spring has been a good month long, and it has been so enjoyable, and we have just loved it and been outside, and it has just been so nice. So speaking of outside, in the vegetable garden, we have planted radishes, beets, cilantro, lettuce, tomatoes, eggplant, cucumber, zucchini, yellow squash. As far as annual plants, annual flowers, there are zinnias, cosmos, some miscellaneous mysterious ones that the kids have collected seeds from over the years and just put them in a pot. We give the kids their own it's actually a pretty big pot that they can plant whatever they want in, and so oftentimes there's just a mix of things and we just never know what's gonna come up. Sometimes there are beans mixed in with flowers, but it's fun. And so I don't think I mentioned where I'm coming to you from. I usually say that earlier on, but I totally forgot. I am coming to you from Minnesota, where I live with my husband and our 2 young children. And we're near the end of the school year, so it's a little bit chaotic. The energy is a little chaotic. There are a lot of big feelings around, and my brain is a little bit scattered. I just feel like we're pulled in all sorts of directions with all sorts of obligations, and they're all good things, but it can just get to be a lot and a little hectic. And then with summer break, it comes with its own kind of energy. And so we will get to that when we get to that. And so we're just kind of getting through this end of the school year. And so you'll just have to bear with me throughout this episode. If I miss things here and there or seem just totally scattered, that is why. So as promised, let me share with you the bouquets that I have here. Our peonies are just starting to bloom. Oh, these are just so beautiful, and they smell so good. And they're so soft and fluffy, and I just always want to stick my face in them. They are just beautiful. These ones are like a light, cool pink with a very soft yellow center. Maybe I can bring it a little bit closer so hopefully you can see it. Sometimes if I go too close, it can't focus, so hopefully you're able to see this and that it's focusing okay. I just wish you could smell it off the screen. And our iris have also started to bloom. Let's see if I can do this without spilling anything. We have a lot of different varieties of iris. These are so beautiful. They are a very deep purple, like a deep violet, blue purple color. And I have a little bit of bleeding hearts in here that add a nice bit of pink and white. I love the detail in these irises. They are just absolutely beautiful. And this color is so vibrant. I just love them. And hopefully I'll be able to insert some video footage from our garden as well. And you will see that on the screen now. This sheep joining me here today. It was a passed down on my husband's side of the family. I think it came from his grandmother. I am not sure who made it or where it really came from, but it looks handmade. It is super soft and fuzzy and woolly, and I'm pretty sure it's handmade because it looks like there are these dowels that are the sticks. I'm trying to see if I can find any sort of signing of a name here, but I don't see anything. I think the eyes are like the ends of flat nails. And it's just so fun and soft and absolutely perfect. The kids thought it was hilarious and so sweet, and I'm sure they will be giving it a name sometime soon. So it is going to hang out with me, and we're just going to set it right here. So today I have several finished projects to share with you and a lot of works in progress. Some of the works in progress I don't believe I had started the last time we chatted. I don't think so. And I have, let's see, check my notes, several books that I have read since we last talked. So that I will share with you as well. And it is rhubarb season, and so I have been making lots of things with rhubarb. Speaking of which, I need to remember to go harvest some more rhubarb today to make something, I don't know what yet, maybe a pie. So we will go over some of those, hopefully, if I remember to insert pictures of that in the Eats and Reads section. When we get there, then that will be there. Okay. I think there was just one more thing I needed to talk about before we just jump into all the projects. I do include closed captioning for all of my videos here. You click on that CC button, and if my speaking is too fast or too slow for your preferences, YouTube allows you to adjust the speed. The links to things that I talk about will be in the description box below this video. Sometimes you need to click on an arrow that says show more. I do use Ravelry for my project pages, and so those are marked separately if that is somewhere you choose to go access more information. I do try to talk about the majority of the information that is on there, if not more, here on YouTube, just for another way of absorbing that information and seeing projects in, what's the word, in motion maybe, and to see how they are worn and moving around and I don't know, things like that. Let's get started talking about my finished projects. The first finished project we are going to talk about today is the one that I am wearing. This is the Summer Saunter by Samantha Guerin, and I really like how it turned out. I did modify it a little bit. If you haven't been here before, I will let you know that a lot of patterns I usually change a little bit just to suit whatever mood that I am in, or maybe what I'm envisioning for the final product to be. And so oftentimes I make little changes here and there just to see what will happen. And so that it becomes something that is, if it's a garment, to be something that's a wearable piece for me, because I do make things with the intention of wearing them if it's a garment. And I usually have an idea of what it is that I want it to be. And so sometimes I might change things up to make it work for that. Sometimes it also has to do with maybe yardage, or just based on whatever I have on hand and what I'm working with. And yeah, there's lots of factors involved. Or maybe what fabric I'm getting, if it's similar to what the pattern is or not, or whatever. So I'm going to be looking down at notes so that hopefully I don't miss anything, and we'll go from there. So this is a pattern, like I said, by Samantha Guerin. It was published in July 2023, so it is almost 1 year old. It is knit up in DK weight yarn at a gauge of 19 stitches by 25 rows of 4 inches in stockinette, and that is for working in the round and flat using the larger needle, which is a US 6 or 4 millimeter, and then there's also a US 4 or 3.5 millimeter needle used for the cuffs and hem, and I believe the neckline. You do knit this top down, and it's a drop shoulder T construction. You start with casting on the sweater in the back, and you work that part down, and there's some shoulder shaping with short rows. And then you pick up from the shoulders and knit the front section, and then you eventually join in the round and work the body. The sleeves in the pattern, which hopefully I will have a image up here of Samantha wearing her tee, is that the sleeves actually are a folded hem, like a folded double thick sleeve cuff type of situation here, but as you can see, I did mine a little differently. So I mimicked the neckline, and the neckline's also picked up later. You do these eyelets and then like an I-cord edging. Maybe I can get up a little bit closer so maybe you can see it a little bit better. And it is a V-neck. And then so I did something similar. My row gauge was a little bit different than hers, so it was a little bit tighter. So I did add a little bit more length in the top and the back sections. I think I added 4 rows. I probably could have even added 6 or 8 rows if I wanted to. Yeah, so my row gauge was just a little bit off, and I decided I wanted to do these shorter sleeves because if I did the folded, I was afraid there would be too much fabric in my underarm and that would be uncomfortable, and so I didn't want to do that. The yarn that I used is Purl Soho's Cattail Silk. The Cattail Silk is 100% silk. It comes in 618 yards for 100 grams. It is a very, I would say it's more like lace weight yarn, and so I held it double to achieve this DK weight gauge. The colorway I used is called Pale Wisteria, and it's a very light lilac color, I would say. And I used 2 skeins of it, so 182 grams total, not including the swatch. And I want to say, I don't remember how many grams my swatch used. I don't know. But I did swatch, and my row gauge was off, and so I knew I had to make adjustments for that. I knit the second size, which would give me 4 inches of positive ease in the bust circumference, and I am really happy with how it turned out. So I did do the bottom of the body hem in that folded way. So I'm going to flip up the hem so hopefully you can see where it was attached. So you knit down, and then you fold it in half, and then you whip stitch it loosely. And I really like how it looks. It's very structured, it doesn't flip, and it looks nice. I had debated holding only 1 single strand to do this, so that when I folded it, it would be the same thickness of fabric as the rest of it. But then I decided not to and just follow the pattern as written. And so I held it double. So that area is double thick. So that's why I also didn't want to do it for the sleeve cuffs, because then it would be double thick there. But then I could have also switched it up and held the yarn by itself, just single, and then done the cuffs there. But I just didn't want to. So I did the pickup with the smaller needle, and then just mimicked the patterning in the neckband. And then for the I-cord here, I went down another needle size and did my I-cord bind off. I did end up picking up more stitches than my size that I started with for this armhole, since I was using a smaller size needle, and I just wanted to make sure that this area wasn't going to be tight, because nobody wants a tight sleeve on their bicep. It's just not comfortable. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. The armhole depth is a little shallower than I usually make it, but it is by no means like up in my armpit. But I think if I wanted to make it again, I would increase the number of rows that I knit before joining it in the round, and then try for that slightly longer short sleeve and see how that goes. But yeah, with it being so close to my armpit, I just didn't want that much fabric sitting around there. I just feel like it would not be very comfortable. But overall, I am so happy with how this turned out. I'm going to turn around so hopefully you can see the back as well. I feel like that's kind of nice to see, just see if it lays flat, and this one does. I feel like the shoulder shaping is done really nicely in this pattern, and there's no funny lumps or bumps. And the front area, the V, sits very nicely. I don't feel like it's too low or too high. And then if you wanted to make adjustments, you could always pick up more or less stitches to make that V-neck the openness that you want to. I mean, of course you can't change it drastically without the fabric maybe puckering or just feeling stretched out, but you can adjust it a little bit just depending on how many stitches you picked up. And I believe I picked up the same number that my size called for. I think so. I didn't write it down as anything different, so I must have done it the same way as the pattern. So yes, I'm very pleased with how it turned out. I think my body length ended up being 12 inches total, so it could have been a little shorter than the pattern recommendation, but I'm wearing it with jeans that sit right below my belly button, and the sweater goes a couple inches past the top part of my jeans, so I feel like there's good coverage and it's still nice and drapey. And with it being 36 inches, it is just there's like a little bit of positive ease still when it hits my hips, which is nice. I should have 1 inch, there's 1 inch of positive ease there, and then 4 inches of positive ease around my full bust circumference. And so it's super comfortable and I'm really happy with it. It was my first time working with 100% silk. I'm going to try to pull up the information on the silk, because I have to say it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. I guess I don't really know what I was expecting, but it isn't like silky. Like usually you think of silk as being like super silky or slippery, and it wasn't. It has a texture to it, and I'm sure that there's like different kinds of silk and different ways it's processed. This is 100% mulberry silk. This yarn is actually machine wash cold and tumble dry low friendly. And so that also I think makes it a great summer yarn to work with, because with summer comes sweat and bug spray and sunscreen and all those things. And it's just something that I feel like would probably wash better in a machine than in like a sink. And so I am really excited to kind of see how this wears throughout the summer. It is really comfortable so far. I feel like it's pretty breathable, but I have not worn it in like 85-degree weather yet, so I don't really know. But yeah, I really like it, and I enjoyed making it, and I could definitely see myself making another one. I actually do have yarn picked out to make another one, and if we have time to talk about that, I will show you later in this video. The next finished project I'm going to share with you is one that I've had on the needles for nearly 2 months, and it is this Ripple Camisole by Jessie Made Designs. This is my 4th one, and I actually modified the Ripple Bralette pattern by Jessie Made because it is the same gauge, and I believe for the different sizes the stitch counts are a little bit different because the amount of negative ease recommended is a little different, but I'm able to change it up based on what I've got. So with this one, I used the Farmer's Daughter Fibers Sock Squad yarn from April. This one is from April. So this is the Bighorn sock base. It is a light fingering weight at 75/25 superwash merino nylon. It comes in 463 yards for 100 grams. And it is a 19.5 micron count yarn. It is super soft, And I knew it was something that I didn't want to knit socks out of, but I would love it in a camisole. And this is something that I wear underneath denim shirts or underneath a sweatshirt or a sweater in the winter. This is not something that I would typically wear out on its own. So this one, I did go down a needle size, so instead of using a US 4, I used a US 3 because the yarn is finer and I just didn't want it to be too gapey. And then with that, I went up a size than I had previously made in my other ones that I used a US 4 so that it would come out to be similar dimensions. This one did come out slightly looser than my other ones. It could have been my aggressive blocking, I'm not entirely sure. And it did come out a little bit longer as well. And I ended up using 96 grams of yarn. It is knit bottom up, so you cast on for your full circumference with your full number of stitches in the beginning, and then it is ribbing for a very long tube, or depending on how long you want your garment to be. I believe mine blocked out to be a total of 14 or 15 inches total in the body length to the underarm, including this back ribbed section. And so I ended up knitting 120 rounds of the ribbing before doing this back section and splitting for the front 2 sides. So I followed the pattern exactly as far as stitch counts and like how to do this part. And then I did my straps using still a US 3, but I switched to bamboo double pointed needles because it's less slippery and I don't lose my stitches that way. And I believe I did 40 slip stitches. Total, like for counting, but I think I could have done like 35 or 30 here. Maybe 30 would be too short, maybe 35, because I think because this one came out a little bit bigger, I did again go up pattern size, but down a needle size. It just has a little more ease or a little less negative ease than my other ones, and so my straps I feel like don't need to be as long because it's not being stretched out as much. But it still fits just fine. And again, this is an underlayer piece, so I'm not terribly concerned, and I don't want to undo my 3 needle bind off to take out some stitches to like 3 needle bind off. Not that it's hard to do, but I feel like sometimes when I undo things for things that aren't that big of a deal, I end up creating a bigger mess than if I just left it, and it's just fine. So I'm not going to change it. But if I make another one, then I will know that I perhaps want the straps a little bit shorter if I'm going to do the same everything else. Otherwise, honestly, it fits just fine. And my first block could have been overly aggressive, and so with future ones, if I don't pin it out so aggressively, then maybe it'll be just fine. Plus, if I really want to, I could throw it in the dryer on low and just watch it for like 10 minutes and see what happens if that's something that I really want to do. Again, it's superwash merino, so I'm not terribly worried about it felting. But if I really needed to cinch it up a bit, I think I could. Otherwise, it is fine the way it is. This yarn color is so lovely. It is the main color from the Farmer's Daughter Fiber Sock Squad, and it's like a lovely soft peachy pink with speckles of black, orange, and red maybe? I'm gonna try to hold it a little closer so hopefully you can see the very delicate micro speckling in it. I just feel like this yarn lent itself really well to the garment and the type of fabric that I was going for, because I wanted something super soft next to skin, really drapey and still breathable, and just like a really nice soft layer. So this turned out just the way I wanted it to, and I had the perfect amount of yarn for it. The next 2 finished projects we're going to talk about are socks. So while we are on the Sock Squad train, we will keep riding the Sock Squad train, and this one is using May. This is May. Yes, May. So this is a 75-25 superwash merino, 25% nylon, and it comes in 2 50 grams and then a 20 gram. So I marled the 2 50 grams, and those were like a maybe gray sagey green and then a beigey yellow color, and they both had some speckling. And then the mini was this solid kind of a burnt brown color, maybe a burnt sienna color. It's a warm brown. So I decided to knit the High Desert Socks by Larkspur Knits, who is Lindsay Fowler. And I decided to do it with these 2 stripes that are not marled. So those are the mini held on its own or held together. And then the 50-gram ones created the rest of the main color. And so there's this nice ribbing, which hugs the feet and the legs real nicely. And then you have a slipped stitch heel flap. And then a gusset. And yeah, it turned out really nice. I used a total of 91 grams of yarn, and I can't see where I used, let's see, I used 17 grams of the contrast color, and then a total of 74 grams of the main color, and I knit these on a US 3, which is a 3.25 millimeter, and I followed the adult extra small instructions. And for reference, I wear a US 7 women's shoe, and I prefer my socks to have more negative ease than less. And I really like these for hiking. I wear these socks in my hiking boots all the time. This is probably, well, I actually don't know. I've knit probably a dozen variations of this pattern, and I just really like it. And they fit really well in hiking boots. So I feel like this is going to go great with spring and summer hiking. Summer might be too hot to wear wool socks, but I like cushy socks in my hiking shoes, and I feel like these ones will go really well for that. So here they are, and I'm so pleased with them. The next finished project is another pair of socks, and this one, I wanted to use the remaining yarn from my husband's socks, and I think I showed those last time, and I used up every last inch. It was so satisfying. So these are mine. I brought over sock blockers, and then I forgot to put them on the last pair of socks, so I might as well use them for this pair of socks. And these are fingering weight socks, and this yarn is a little plumper, so I like to knit it on US 1.5 or 2.5 millimeter needles, and I cast on 56 stitches for myself. And for the contrast color, I used Knit Picks Hawthorn, which is labeled as a fingering weight yarn, but I think it's closer to a heavy fingering or light sport weight. This dark purple color is called Contessa. It's an 80/20 fine Highland wool, superwash wool and nylon, and it comes in 357 yards for 100 grams. And then the stripes, that self-striping yarn is dyed by Chantel of Mud Punch, and it comes in 385 yards for 100 grams, I think. Nope, 385 yards for 110 grams, and it's an 80/20 superwash merino nylon. The 2 yarns go really well together because they are very similar in weight, and I love how it turned out. So I used all of the self-striping yarn that was left, and that was 48 grams, and I used 15 grams of the main color. And so I'm so pleased with how these turned out. I did an old Norwegian cast on of 56 stitches with the contrast color. I knit a 2x2 rib for 20 rounds. And then for the leg, I decided I want to go through 1 color repeat. And then I did my shadow wrap heel in the contrast color. And then I continued and knit all the way until I ran out of the main color, which is 2 repeats of the color striping sequence. So I'm so pleased with how these turned out, and they fit really well, and now my husband and I have matching socks. As far as other finished projects go, I recently put out another video called The Collection of Orchard Tops and Dresses, and those are all sewn items. And so I've been sewing a bunch, and it was so much fun to make those tops and dresses, and I will link to that video in one of the corners here or down below, and maybe you would be interested in checking that out to see if it is a pattern that you might be interested in. Okay, I think that is all the finished projects. I have several works in progress to share with you today, so let's get to those. I love being outside, but I don't love mosquitoes. I have this huge welt on my arm, and when I get mosquito bites, they just swell, and if there are any that are close together, they swell so much that they end up mashing into one big welt. And so my foot, the top of my foot, has a few bites, and I've had an ice pack wrapped on top of it. And yeah, so that's where we're at with that. Just random tangent. But we are on works in progress. I think I will start with the ones that you've seen before. At least I think you have. And then maybe we will go into the new ones since last time. I think that's what I'll do. So let's see. I don't think I'm going to go into super detail about each one because then I just feel like I have to re-say it all the time and I just don't feel like doing that. So for the ones that I've done before, if you've missed previous episodes, maybe go to those if you want the extra information, or if you are able to access Ravelry, the information is all there. So the first one I'm going to share with you is one that I'm knitting as part of Amy Sher's Knit Along. It runs through the end of May. Here is a beautiful pin that is one of their patterns. What I am knitting is, I believe this is my 4th version of the coloring book tee, and I am using this Wool Dreamers yarn that Amy carries in their shop. It is a 50-50 wool cotton, and this is the Fratelli color. It is a beautiful light heathered, kind of a chambray blue with bits of purple in it. And then my contrast color is Ozetta, which is a beautiful neutral. It's kind of creamy gray. This yarn is a woolen spun. It breaks pretty easily compared to a worsted spun yarn. So I do have to be more careful. Like, I can't yank it too hard. I've already broken it a few times and then had to put it back together. Well, not put it back together. I had to like weave in the ends. I'm not sure if a wool cotton blend, if you can wet splice it together. I've not tried. And it seems like it should be able to because of the woolen spun nature, but I really don't know enough about it. And I suppose I could just give it a try and see what happens. But have you tried split splicing or wet splicing a wool cotton, woolen spun non-superwash yarn together? I could just give it a try, but I have not yet. So I just wove it in. Because this yarn is so textured, you can't really see as well where you weave in ends, which is actually really nice. It just kind of blends in together. And so I really don't mind weaving in the ends. So this is a top-down raglan construction sweater. It is a fingering weight tee with lots of different views. And I am choosing to do a long sleeve, full-length body. At least that's where I'm going with this right now. And I have split for the sleeves. So the sleeves are on short cables here. And I have 2 stripes knit in the body section. And I am doing my striping with a little bit different than what is in the pattern. And yeah, I really like how it is going so far. I will say that because this yarn is more textured, it tends to want to grip on itself, which is making me slow down in my knitting, which isn't like good or bad. It's just an observation. And so it'll catch on itself. So my rhythm of being able to just go isn't as smooth because occasionally it'll catch. So I have to make sure that I've gone through the right leg of my stitch and haven't like caught the bottom one or whatever it is. But I just have to be more patient with it, which is a great lesson in itself. But again, it's not good or bad. It's just different. And so it's something I have to pay more attention to in some ways, even if I'm just going round and round. But yeah, it is an enjoyable knit and it's super lightweight and I look forward to wearing this. All right, the next one I'm going to share with you, I think I cast on last time. Yes, I'm pretty sure I did. This is the second version that I'm making of the Queen's Cami by Tori Yu. And I'm using the same, what did I use the first time? Yes, I'm using the same yarn, which is Pearl Soho Linen Quill, but I am using 3 colors and I've added a little bit of fun thing to the bottom. So this is Magnolia Bloom, which is the main color. It is a beautiful, cool, pinky purple color. And I should have one yarn label here, I think. Here we go. It is 50% fine Highland wool, 35% alpaca, 15% linen. It is a non-superwash wool, fingering weight at 439 yards for 100 grams. And I've worked with this yarn a lot. If you've been here for a while, you will have seen it a lot and a lot and a lot. I really like it in garments. I find it really comfortable, but to each their own. There have been people that have left comments saying it's so scratchy, they really don't like it, and that is totally fine because there are so many different yarns out there and we are all different people and our skins have different sensitivities, and so what might be soft for one person may not be for another, and that's just what it is, and that's totally okay. There are so many different colors to choose from for this yarn. And so here, this is a bottom-up construction, and I have used Bright Flamingo for the bottom. It is a fold-up hem. And then I switched to this neon highlighter pink, which is Pink Pop, and I did a row of eyelets in there, which is a yarn over followed by a knit two together. And that is not in the pattern, that is just me making something fun. I feel like eyelets are very summery. And then I switched to the main color, which is Magnolia Bloom? Magnolia Blossom. Magnolia Blossom. And I'm just having so much fun with this. I have another progress keeper or stitch marker on here by Amy, which is Boba with a pink yarn ball. Oops, and I am showing you the back of it, which doesn't show you anything. There we go. So I am having so much fun with this, and because I've made it before, I know what to expect. This time I did not cast on two different sizes. So the first time I cast on a bigger size and then did decreases down to the next smaller size. And then I had to do some finagling in the underarm bind off area because of how the numbers were. And so this time I decided not to do that. And so I cast on for, I think, the first size, and I'm just going with that the entire way. Pretty sure that's what I'm doing. I don't have my project page flipped to the right information, but yes, size 1, and it is A-line shaped, and you change the gauge by changing your needle sizes throughout, which is, I think, a very clever way to do it. And yeah, I think it's still going to fit comfortably over my hips because my gauge might be a little bit looser, I think, and I can always block it out slightly more aggressively near the bottom. And I'm going to do a length, I think that might be closer to high hip, but still go past the top of my hips, and we'll see where I get from there. So I'm maybe halfway through the body already before the bind off for the underarms. Oh, I'm definitely halfway. Yes, I'm definitely halfway past that part. So I'm really enjoying this. I think this is super fun. No deadline for this, although it'd be great to have it done by the end of June. And yeah, I'm just having a lot of fun with it. And I have made it before, so I know approximately how much yardage I need, and I don't think I will be running out of yarn, so that's good. The next 3 projects I do not believe I've shown on here before, so that's exciting. This one is the Weekday Tee by Amy Sure. This pattern was released this year. It is a fingering weight tee, or light fingering weight. I believe Amy's sample is knit in the Wool Dreamers Sauna. And I am using Pearl Soho's Sweetgrass, which is a fine alpaca and cotton, and I've not used this base before. And so this is a super fun one to give a try. I'm using Pale Sesame, which is the colorway. It's like a light neutral beige color, and this is a top-down compound raglan construction with lace in the raglan detail. And the neckline looks really wide right now because I will be picking it up later to do a ribbed neckline. It's got a nice scoop neck, which I love for summer. I love a V-neck or a scoop neck for summer because I feel like otherwise my neck and chest area can get hot, and I don't want to be like pulling at it if it's really hot. So this will be really nice. And okay, in the past I have said that these silicone cords are really annoying, but I have to say it has come in handy when I am using needles that are less than a US 4 because my small circumference needles only go down to a US 4, and so I can't use the small cables for my interchangeables to hold the stitches here. And I don't like using waist yarn to do it because there always ends up being a stitch that kind of like tucks under, and I don't like that. And so I have to say that these cords have come in handy to hold the stitches here. And basically how they work is that you stick your needle to the tube and you push it in so it's pretty tight and snug, and then you kind of wiggle it through your stitches and then take off your needle and then you tie it. And then when you're ready to knit again, you stick your needle back on, take out the knot, stick your needle back on, and then wiggle it through to the other end, and then they are ready to be knit with. And so I have to say that it does have a use. And I haven't struggled as much this time. I don't know what was going on last time. It could have just been the combination of needle and yarn, and it was just kind of sticking, and I had a hard time getting it through, and I just found it super annoying. But this time it worked, so I don't know. It's okay, I guess. And so I'm working on the body, round and round stockinette. I can knit on this while I am reading or talking to other people, so it is at a nice stage for that right now, and I love how it's turning out. I have a rose polymer clay progress keeper here by Reshma of Hello Lavender. It's like this pale dusty pink, and I think it's really beautiful and matches the vibe of this. And then I also have a matcha tea stitch marker here, and this one is from Amy's shop and was kindly gifted to me. No deadline on this one. It would be also great to have this one done by end of June. I think I'm going to make the sleeve slightly longer than what it is in the pattern. The pattern has a kind of just capped sleeve, but I think I'm going to make it elbow length sleeves. We'll see where we go with that. I did make the yoke depth a little bit deeper because I don't like things right up in my armpit. And from the pattern pictures and from the testers, it looked like a lot of them had it pretty close or in their armpit, and so there was a little more fabric, I don't know if puckering is the right word, but it was just a little more snug in that area, and I wanted it deeper. And I also wasn't sure about my row gauge. I felt like it was a little bit tighter, and yeah, so I just wanted to, I lengthened that. And there are instructions on how to do that in the pattern, so I just followed the instructions on how to do that, and we'll see how it goes. I also know that with this yarn, it's supposed to stretch out a little, just because it's a cotton and alpaca. Oh, here's the tag, by the way. It is an undyed yarn. So this fiber content is known to stretch out a bit, so we'll kind of see how that goes. But I am okay with it stretching out some if it does. After I am done blocking it, I think it will still wear and drape super nice. So we will just see where it goes with that. I really enjoy knitting with it. It's really soft in hand. I don't find it hurting my hands. I am a little worried. Well, not worried. I think it'll block out okay, but it does show up like where the tension isn't exactly the same. I feel like it shows a little bit more. And I did try steam blocking the top section a little just to see what would happen. And isn't that I am so much rowing out, it's just certain areas are a little less even than others, which is normal because I'm a human, not a robot. And I'm thinking wet blocking will just solve all that, but we'll see what happens. I'll show you the back here. It's just slightly uneven in some areas, but not like rowing out. So it's not like where I'm knitting flat in that top section for this shaping part. It isn't like I have areas that are just completely looser than others. I feel like there's just some stitches here and there that might not be as even. And I know that blocking does wonders because I always wet block everything. But yeah, I just noticed it a little bit more with this yarn, and it's probably the fiber content with cotton in there. And so it's not as elastic as something that is 100% wool. But we will see what happens. I think it'll be fine. Since we are on the Amy Shure train, I sense a theme here. There's a few trains going on. But this one is a test knit, and I am using another new to me yarn. So this has been pretty exciting. I've used a lot of new to me bases recently, and that's just been really fun. This one smells divine. It smells so good. I don't know what it is, and I can't explain it. I feel like something else I smelled recently similar was another Farmer's Daughter Fibers yarn. It was that 19.5 micron Bighorn sheep base, and I keep wanting to say it smells kind of sandalwood-esque, but I just don't know what it is. So this is Daylights by Harrisville Designs, and this yarn all has like a natural base with other colors kind of mixed in, and this is caffeine, so there's a little bit of brown in there. And it is so delightful. And Amy is now carrying this base in their shop, and I bought this at a tester discount to test an upcoming pattern. It is American Cormo and wool. and approximately 250 yards for 100 grams. It's considered DK weight. It is super lofty and very bouncy and round, and I think it is really good for texture like cables, lace, things like that. This test is all stockinette, well, with some ribbing, and I have started it, and this is where I'm at. It is bottom up. It is the campus vest, and yeah, this is where I'm at with it. So I've just started. I have some beautiful tea leaves on here that are also from Amy's shop. And then I have this teapot, which goes well with the caffeine theme. And I'm just knitting back and forth on this right now, and I will show more progress as it goes. It isn't due until July, so I've got a lot of the summer to work on it, which is perfect because I need things in the summer that use minimal counting and minimal pattern referencing, because with the kids at home and us being in and out constantly and just a totally different type of, I don't know if routine is the right word, because there isn't as much of a routine in the summer, but there's just things that change up basically weekly. And so having simpler makes is really nice. And it also is a reason why I was hurrying to get the weekday tee top section done, because there's no way that I can be knitting lace while the kids are at home. And so I really needed that done so that I could just do body round and round stockinette that I can start and stop whenever and not be referencing a lace chart. The last thing I have to share with you is a pair of socks. I am so excited about this. I even made a new little sock project bag to go with it. This beautiful watercolor fabric I found at Joann's, and I bought like, I think 9 inches of it, and it comes in probably a 43-inch width. And so I have enough left to make another bag or to make like a book sleeve or something like that with a coordinating fabric. But I paired it with this lavender fabric. And if you are new here, I don't follow specific patterns or tutorials for my project bags. I don't sell them. I'm not going to make a tutorial. There are tons of them out there. So if you're looking for something, I would just search for drawstring bag tutorial or boxed bottom bag tutorial. There's lots of stuff out there. So I have cast on a pair of socks. I like to knit mine cuff down on their own needles. And so here I'm using US 1 2.25 millimeter ChiaoGoo 9-inch needles. And this is the yarn. This is a one-of-a-kind yarn dyed by Gwen of Bella Filato Studio. She had a mystery bag sale a couple of months ago, and I was looking for something summery. So she said, put in the comments if there's something you absolutely are looking for or not looking for. And she can't guarantee anything because it's a mystery bag, but you can still put in comments. So I wanted something summery and bright, and I have this plus 2 other yarns that are so beautiful. One's like a bright peach, and another one's like a bright pink, or a light, like a pastel bright pink and a pastel bright coral. And this one just has neon speckles of all the colors in it, and I love it a lot. So this is I think it's a 75-25 superwash merino nylon yarn. And then Denise of Earth Tones Girl had shared a little while ago this new heel tab that she was trying out, and I wanted to give it a try too. In the summer, I really like short socks. I also find it great to knit short socks in the summer because basically it's like half a sock, because I tend to knit my socks really long in the winter, and so that takes up a lot of yarn and more time, right? It's like double the time. But if you're knitting a very short sock, it hardly has a leg, and so by the time you're done with like 10 rounds, then you're like, oh, it's time for the heel. So that's pretty fabulous. So I decided to try out this heel tab. It is really fun. It uses German short rows, and you're knitting short rows to like create this, and then you fold it in half, wrong sides together, and knit to the cast on edge. I think the pattern says you can use a provisional cast on. I didn't do that. Or like a stretchy cast on, which I did an old Norwegian cast on, and I do a lot of folded cuffs, and I find it really easy to do it that way. And then I did a shadow wrap heel, so I didn't follow the rest of the pattern. I just did it for the heel tab, and I think it's really fun. And there was, I think, 1 or 2 errors possibly in the pattern. It is a free pattern. And I think if you are a complete beginner, it would be very confusing because of those little errors. And since I've knit a lot of socks before, I found it fine. I don't remember what they are off the top of my head. I think one of them was like on a right side row, it said to purl, but you would knit. Otherwise, it would look like there was garter or like a purl ridge. And then there was something else that said you should have like one double stitch on each end, but I didn't. And I don't know if that's on me or that's on the pattern, that part of it, because I don't know. It ended up happening the same for both of them. I did not have that extra double stitch on each end that the pattern said I would. So maybe it's for a different size that it would have that, but I don't know. So I cast on 60 stitches and yeah, I am already on the foot. So the leg only has 10 rounds past this heel tab, and so it goes really fast. And I love how the speckles are working up. And with this yarn, I plan on knitting myself a pair of socks and my two girls a pair of socks. And the kids were like, maybe Daddy wants a pair of socks out of these. And then they thought about it for like 2 seconds and they said, no, I don't think Daddy likes neon speckles. So we will knit him a separate pair of socks. And by we, I mean I will. And I will knit myself and my two daughters socks out of this yarn. And if I don't have enough, I have, again, the other two that are more solid tonal. And I think those would be great as heel toes and cuffs should I need it. Well, I should need it because there's no way I'm knitting 3 pairs of short socks out of 100 grams of yarn. Although I think it was bigger. It might have been like 110 grams. So, but still, I think I will end up using a contrast color for cuffs, heels, and or toes for the girls. I think I'm going to do mine in the whole, in like the main color the throughout, I think. I don't know. I can change my mind once I get to the toes if I want to. Okay, we went through all the works in progress, and I typically don't share like acquisitions or things like that. However, May has been an exciting month. I spent some money on some yarn, and you will sense another theme in color. And I'm very excited about all of this because they are all local dyers. So they are all from Minnesota, and I just wanted to share some of that love. One of the yarns I purchased online, and the other ones I purchased when I went to the Shepherd's Harvest Woolen Fiber Festival. I can't remember what the full name is, but that was really fun. It was great to see some friends in person and to touch all the yarn and to see all the colors, and it was just really nice. And it was a beautiful day. So I am going to share with you what they are and some potential plans for them because I like to purchase yarn with a project in mind. It might change over time, but this way I get the yardage that I need for that project. And I think I have a video here that talks about how I project plan that way, and that way if I have an idea of how much yardage I need for different types of projects, then I can better purchase according to that. Otherwise, I always end up short or something like that. And I don't like having a bunch of extra yarn because some of them are special fiber blends, and I don't always like to mix and match different blends together because I don't know how they'll block or behave together over time. And so, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to start with the yarn that I ordered online. This is Palmer Yarn Company, and these are 2 sock yarns that are 80/20 superwash merino nylon. They come in 400 yards. They're 2-ply. It's 100 grams each, and they are both Oopsie skeins. So they are basically based on a certain colorway, but not exactly how she wanted it to turn out. And so they ended up at a discounted price and are labeled as Oopsie. So this moody purpley blue-gray is Oopsie Luna, and this moody shades of green and teal is Oopsie Puff. And I love these colors, and I look forward to knitting up socks with them. They are more variegated, I think, and then definitely have like a color theme and mood to them. Love purples, love teals, love moody, so good. Okay, the next yarns are all from Shepherd's Harvest. And this one is by Sam of Lavender Loon. I love Sam's yarn. This is the colorway Concho. It is a heathered teal, super saturated and lovely. It is 70% non-superwash merino, 15% yak, 15% silk. It is a DK weight and comes in 330 yards for 115 grams. So with 230 grams, this one is going to be another Summer Saunter by Samantha Guerin. Again, it's the one that I'm wearing, and I love this. The other option is to make another Love Note by Tin Can Knits, because I bought 2 of these in a different colorway last year at the same festival from Sam, and I made a Love Note with that. So I know I can knit the entire sweater with these 2 yarn hanks with very little remaining. I think I had like less than 2 grams left, and so I know I can do it, but I think I want to try knitting this Summer Saunter with it. I think it's gonna be nice and drapey and flowy and take me into fall, especially with this beautiful base, and yeah, that's my plan for this one. The next is a new to me dyer. It is Sunshine Queen Fibers. Again, these are all Minnesota dyers. And this one is called Sea Glass. It is a lovely, pale, muted gray blue. And this one is a sock yarn. It is 85-15 superwash extra fine merino nylon. It comes at 394 yards for 100 grams. She had 1 more stitch marker or progress keeper remaining, and so she gave it to me with the yarn. It is a gold crown. And she said all her sock bases were named by her daughter. So this one is Tiana Sock, and I believe she said they were all named after Disney princesses. And the plan for this one is to knit a mini mock neck tank by Jessie Made Designs. And I have made 2 of those so far. And I'm thinking this one I'm going to modify slightly by changing needle size in the body instead of doing increases. So the previous ones I had made increases along the sides, so it was slightly A-line, so it would be less negative ease at my waist because I do knit it much longer than what the pattern states. So my plan for this is maybe once I'm past the natural waist is to go up 2 needle sizes, 1 or 2 needle sizes, and see where it goes from there. So that's what I'm thinking. Or I'll just use the same needle size and make the pattern as written and just not make it as long and make a cropped one because my other ones are all pretty long and go past the top of my hip bones. But we'll see. But I think this is just a lovely color, and it being called Sea Glass is just perfect for summer. The next one is by a new to me yarn dyer. Well, not new to me yarn dyer. It's a yarn that I have not bought before from this yarn dyer. It is Fiber MacGyver, and this is the merino linen fingering. The colorway is mineral. It is a very bright aqua mint color. Well, maybe not even mint, but like toothpaste mint, maybe. It is so pretty and summery, and this is a 90% superwash merino, 10% linen, and it comes in 400 yards for 100 grams. And this was in their sale bin. I want to say it was like $15 for 100 grams. And I plan on making a tee with this. I haven't decided which one yet, but I'm thinking a V-neck tee with a slightly looser gauge. I don't really want to knit it on US 3s, maybe US 4s, but maybe even US 5. US 4 or US 5, I think. This is a pretty fine yarn, and I don't believe I've used this base before, and so I'll have to swatch and see what happens, but I feel like the colors between these two are pretty even. And in the body, I'll probably do helical knitting because with indie dyed yarn, there's always going to be a slight variation, and that way they just blend together nicely. But I think this is going to be super drapey, especially since it is a single ply yarn, and I think it'll just be really nice as like a V-neck, a very simple V-neck, raglan shaping. Yeah, I have some ideas, and I have some patterns that I think will go really well with this, patterns I've knit before, and that'll be a nice summer knit. And it was super nice to receive these goodies with the yarn. So I have a sticker that says Fiber MacGyver, and I have the silicone tubing in bright neon green, which is fabulous. And I have these needle stoppers. It's a little camper. I believe their camper is named Mage. If I am wrong, I will correct myself here on the screen. So the needles go into this little hole here and keep the stitches from falling off. But it is so cute. And I just feel like this all together is perfect for summer. So I think that's all I wanted to show you on that. And again, I don't typically do things like this, but they are all Minnesota Dyers. May was a special month for me, and so I decided it was going to be something I wanted to treat myself with, and I'm so happy with all these purchases. I feel like I'm on a few different trains in this episode, and these colors are so good. I am just loving all of them. Okay, now we go on to eats and reads. I'm going to fly through this next section because I am out of time. I've got to be somewhere, and we will just see if I can get through it real quick because I did mention I was going to talk about it, and I just don't want to leave you hanging, I guess. So eats and reads. Rhubarb cream cheese muffins, so good. And the jammy creamy coffee cake with rhubarb cherry jam, also so good. It's from the 100 Morning Treats cookbook, also by a local author. And I will flash a picture of that cookbook here on the screen because I don't have it on hand right now. I will say that a lot of the recipes use quite a bit of butter and quite a bit of sugar. So if those are two things that you do not like to consume a large amount of, maybe those recipes are not for you, or maybe you'll have to tailor them a little bit. Because the weather has been so nice, we've been eating outside a lot. I have been making these soft-boiled egg salads with asparagus and feta and all sorts of things, and I just throw whatever into a salad that I want. So maybe there will be some pictures here on the screen of that. On to books. A book I really enjoyed was The Magician's Daughter, and I was looking for something that just wrapped itself up in a standalone. I just wanted one book. And this was published February 2023. It's adult historical fiction fantasy. It's almost 400 pages. There's an isolated young woman on a magical island. It's a little bit of like a, what's the word? Coming to age? Coming to, I can't think of what the word is. It's some phrase. But we're set in early 1900s England and off the coast of Ireland, and I enjoyed the character development, the plot, the magic, the nature. I found that it had like a fun, endearing energy, similar to The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. So if you like that book, you may enjoy this one as well. Another book that I read recently is The Fox Wife, and that was published this year, February 2024. It's 390 pages. It's also a standalone book, and I did really enjoy it. It's historical fiction, mystery, has magic realism, Asian mythology. It's definitely an adult book. I would say look up trigger warnings if there are certain things that you are sensitive to, because there were definitely some things that were like running through the plot that could be just one major trigger warning. The author is a fourth generation Malaysian of Chinese descent, and the book is based in China and Japan in 1908. There's a lot of grief. There's two perspectives. Sometimes it's a little bit choppy, but I did enjoy the read overall. So I think if any of those things sound interesting to you, maybe give this one a try. Currently, I am reading Yours Truly by a new-to-me author, Abby Jimenez, and she has lots of books out. She is from Minnesota, so you sense a theme with like local stuff here, which is kind of fun. It is an adult romance, like romantic comedy book. I generally don't love rom-coms. If you've heard my other book reviews or book summaries or book sharings of previous rom-coms, I generally don't like them at all. But I will say I kind of like this one, and I don't know if it's because the references are to local places, and so I feel a connection with it, but I also feel like I like the writing style. I don't find it super cheesy. I mean, if it does, there are always parts that are going to be a little cheesy, but I really like it. The other thing that I like is that the characters are a little bit older. So they're in their mid-30s, and so they've lived life a little bit, and so everything isn't as like naive or as, oh, this is how it should be, and so why isn't it like that? It's more you've got like jaded characters, which are a little more real. And I don't know, there's just life stuff going on. And so I'm really enjoying it so far. I've not finished it yet, but I look forward to reading a lot more books by Abby Jimenez. Okay, we have made it to the end. We are at food for thought. I have a quick short one that I want to share with you. Like I mentioned in the beginning of this episode, we are at the end of the school year. Things are kind of all over the place. I try to get things in like dental appointments, doctor's appointments, things like that done before the end of the school year because summer has its own kind of hectic energy to it. And so my topic, or whatever you want to call it, is self-care. And I feel like in media, in marketing, there's so many things about self-care relating to like bubble baths, retail therapy, all sorts of these things where you have to spend money. And again, if that's your thing, I am not passing any judgment there. What I am here to share is that I feel like a lot of my self-care, of course, it has to do with knitting and making and being creative and using that creative energy. But I think another part of it for me is making time to schedule those doctor's appointments and go to them, and preparing my list of questions, and just doing those things that I need to do for either maintaining a healthy baseline or getting to a healthy baseline, and that fluctuates over time and with age and just day to day. And so I feel like those things are really important to me for self-care because I am taking care of myself so that I can continue taking care of myself, but also take care of my loved ones and just function day to day. We're going to have our ups and downs all the time, but I think being intentional about taking care of myself is really important. And yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. I've had some appointments lately, and so I just wanted to throw that out there. If you would like to share what self-care means to you and how you do things or what you do for self-care, I would love to hear them below. And I do encourage other people to read those comments below and connect with others. And just a reminder to be kind and respectful to everybody in the comments below. It is a public space, so just a friendly reminder on that before you write some things down that you may or may not want out on the internet. And yeah, so self-care is my food for thought today. Okay, we have made it to the very end. I have to stop now because I have to go. I hope you are doing well, taking good care of yourselves, your loved ones, and your neighbors. Cheers to being creative, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.